What's up, metalheads? Welcome back to MetalmanX Builds for another edition of third-party Throwdown. And today we're taking a look at the Daban 8826 Amatsu Hana. And so this build right here was provided to me by the lovely people over at Gundam Kingdom. Make sure to check them out and give them all the credit they deserve for providing me this build and allowing me to have a completely unbiased opinion and say whatever I want about this build. So getting into the Amatsu Hana itself, and I'm sure the first thing you say is, that is a lot of gold-plated parts. And the first thing we think of with gold-plated parts is nub marks. Now we'll be getting into those in just a minute. There are quite a few. Now if you don't know, this is based off of the metal build Amatsu Hana. This is the metal build figure. This, however, is a kit. You have to build the frame, everything by yourself, and so there is going to be a little bit of, I say a little bit, I actually mean quite a few nub marks, but don't let that really throw you off, especially with plated kits. You are going to expect nub marks. Daban's done a pretty good job, in my opinion, of trying to hide those as best as they could. There are a few glaring examples, and we'll get into some of the worst offenders here later. Now, as far as the kit itself, stability and being an all-around decent kit, yeah, this is a pretty solid kit if you ask me. There are some areas that are less staying together. Now, for the main body of the kit, all I've done to this is a bit of panel lining. And by a bit of panel lining, I mean a whole lot of panel lining. This thing has so many panel lining opportunities, and it would be a crime against humanity, like dropping a colony kind of crime, to not panel line this kit. It is gorgeous. But with panel lining, there are some issues when it comes to that, because this is a pre-painted kit in a lot of areas. So you have to be very careful when panel lining it, because you don't want to accidentally rub off any of the paint, which I actually did up here. I'm gonna call myself out on it. I wasn't paying much attention, and I was trying to use some panel lining fluid and some enamel thinner, and when you know it, I also did it back here. I just rubbed that paint right off. I didn't have any real issues on the white when it came to rubbing off the paint. I still was very careful, but anything that's pre-painted, make sure to be very careful with your panel lining fluid and don't let it get too bad. So as far as articulation goes, this thing does move pretty well. It's still pretty stiff. I haven't played with it too much since building it. Just kind of posed it. You got a ball joint, all that fun stuff. There were some areas I did have to glue into place because they just would not stay on. This guy right here, up here on the shoulders, this whole section kept falling off and it was driving me nuts. So eventually I just glued it in. I don't know what I did wrong when building it. It looks to me like I did something wrong, but I did glue that part. Other areas to watch out for on the main body, aside from some very glaring nub marks there, also a lot here on the back that drove me nuts, like right there. I mean, like, come on. The thing that frustrated me the most was that, oh, these right here, they're just sad. They're just sad. Sad nub marks. The thing that really just bugged me the most about the nub marks on here was that some of the gold plating was undergated and some was not. I feel that, I know that this is based off a metal build, and they are extremely expensive, and you're getting this at a fraction of the price of a metal build. And it looks great, but I feel a little bit more care could have been taken into the placement of the nubs. And like I said, this does a really great job of hiding like 90% of the really nasty nub marks. But some areas that really concerned me on this build were right here on the main body. We have some very big issues. I ended up there's a little, like, you pin it together and it moves a bit. I ended up having to glue this part in because it was so tight to put together that it actually broke. So be wary. There are some areas you may have to use a pin vise on to get it to fit properly, or you may end up gluing. Another thing that actually bugs me, and I don't know if this is me or anybody else, I'm gonna put this up here. The distance between the ball joints on the hands, so this area right here, there's just that throws me off. I don't like seeing the little sticks. I love it when they put some kind of guard in there to make it look almost flush. I know it's for movement, but that it just makes it look cheap to me. You know, for a model kit, I'm looking for a lot of realism as far as this is a mobile suit. So in base form, it does have a really good, you know, you can go all the way around. There's some side to side movement up here with pistons. On the legs, I'm gonna pull one of these legs off. We're gonna set this guy aside. So we do have some sliding gimmick right there, as well as some piston stuff right here. One of the biggest issues I had with this kit was posing it. These feet are, I mean, aside from looking absolutely fabulous with those little booties that it has, I mean, they look like those shoes from Holland with the big toes. It doesn't do well at even supporting itself at this angle. So be aware. You're probably going to have to use the action base. You're probably going to have to use the action base to really display this kit. So moving on to the accessories, we have the big wings, which take up almost the majority of the size of the kit. These are really cool. They do have some moving gimmicks in them. You can move them back and forth just a little bit. I'm not going to pull this completely apart, but you can move that. These can pop off. You can use one of these wires here and attach it. They get a cool little effect. I ended up having to super glue the wires into the plastic parts because they just did not want to go in. It is a little floppy because of the weight on it, but I didn't have to go too crazy with fixing anything. You can slide this out to get a little bit more articulation. These parts also bend. Like I said, I'm gonna stop there because honestly, as much as I like the design of this, it was such a pain in the neck. It really was kind of just annoying how many times to get it to fit right and to look correct, I had to take this apart when putting it together. So it's really a straightforward assembly process, but the way it goes together, it's hard to see what you're doing when building. So be sure to take your time and, you know, don't rush it when putting together the wings. Now, on the back side here, we have the connection point for attaching it to the body. You have 2 points of connection, a lower one and an upper one. And I'm going to go ahead and do a PSA right here. I had to rebuild this assembly. The parts that fit in for this part, you'll notice is really floppy for me. That's because I had to redo it completely and put in a new rod, everything, because the parts are so tight that it just sheared right off. As soon as I put it on, tried to move it, snapped. It was done for. So make sure to drill this bit out just the tiniest bit to be able to use it correctly. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bit of a headache. And if you're not an experienced builder with fixing things, and when it comes to third party, sometimes it's hard to get replacement parts. So make sure you take your time and really drill that bit out. That's one you're going to have to drill out, along with the one in the hands. I've heard people say, oh, I've drilled everything out on this kit. Honestly, this and the hands were the only two parts I had to drill anything out of. So make sure that you take your time doing that one. And I think we're pretty much done. I mean, it's so easy to tell that if you're an Astray fan, you want to pick this kit up. So moving on to the accessories, we got some weapons here. One thing I will say, when comparing this to the metal build, this is where this kit falls short. The metal build has a lot more color variation already painted on. If you are good at, you know, coloring and modeling and painting, get this kit. You'll love it, absolutely. Especially if you know how to do gold coats and everything like that. I would definitely like to really clean this up and do some cool things. But, you know, this is a review. I want to show you how it is. So this is one area where the metal build does have it beat out. The colors on it and the colors on the weapons especially. If you look at the metal build, when it comes to these gray parts, I'm gonna pick these out of here. These look like something you would get with an HG. Let's be real. But if you took the time and did some shading on here, I'm sure it would look phenomenal. So keep that in mind when you're getting this. It's not going to be the same as the metal build. It's based off the metal build. So if you want to pick it up and really take that extra step, you're going to end up with a phenomenal looking kit. Just take your time. So I really do actually love this weapon here. I did break down and paint the little sensor there because I just couldn't stand it being red and nothing else. It just drove me nuts. But this is a really cool design, actually. I love how this fits and the hand of it. So the hands slide out. Pop that into the arm here. And slide this back in. Get my fat fingers to do it. There we go. And I love that. That looks so good for me. Like, just that, and pop this one in, the extra, I guess, gun sword. Let's call it what it is. It's a gun sword. Just pop that in. I think that looks just dope. You also have this thing, which is some kind of spear shield combo. Maybe a helicopter. I'm gonna pretend it's a helicopter. So the helicopter here, I won't be like that. I'll be nice. It does look pretty cool. My biggest gripe is it comes apart way too easily. Moving on to more weapons. So you do have these two really cool looking blades. I'm always a sucker for this kind of blade, and I'll probably end up gluing these actually, because they come out so easily. I'm afraid of breaking a peg here, but you can take these and put them together and get a little twisty sword, which is always fun. And same criticism for other parts. I mean, just a little bit of painting and detail work will really go a long way to making that shine. Then we have the punch your face off gauntlet here, and then the comes out for the rip and tear part, which is really cool. I like that it has Wolverine claws. I mean, come on guys, it's Wolverine claws. It's awesome. Snicky, like, yeah. This did have a really bad nub mark across here. I ended up just having to sand it down because it looked just so bad. I probably shouldn't have done that for the review so I could show you guys, but I sanded it down and did some chrome silver on that little knuckle part. It didn't turn out exactly how I wanted. I'm gonna redo it, but I also just didn't want to wait and redo that. But that was sad. There's a lot of really bad nub marks on these pieces right here, so be aware. The accessories were not given the same attention, so there are some issues here and there, especially on the gold parts. It is a little disappointing. Big old sword, big sword, with its little scabbard. It plugs right here in the back. My only complaint about this is that if you're posing it and you turn to the side, it just kind of falls out. It's not really held in by anything. It's just kind of there. But still, is a very cool sword. Once again, a little bit of nub issues on the blade, but I think a little extra effort will go a long way. I ended up actually gluing these gold pieces in just because they kept falling out. You also get a large number of extra hands, including ones that aren't done in gold. You also get enough parts in here that you can create on the right hand a full gold arm like you have on the left. So if that's kind of your thing, if you want both arms to resemble a gold frame, you can do that. Also included is a water slide decal sheet so that you can add a bit more flair to the kit. I really love a lot of these red accents. I think they would add a lot to the kit. So my final score averaged out, it's gonna come to an 84. Honestly, this kit looks fantastic. A little bit extra love will go a long way on this kit. Just take your time, avoid areas that are too tight. If you feel like you're going to break it, stop. I definitely suggest picking it up. I want to say thank you once again to the sponsor of this video, Gundam Kingdom, for providing me with this kit and allowing me to review it and give my honest opinions about it. So until next time, take care, and we'll see you on the next third-party throwdown.